Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be working on the FrankenFicus, a medium leaf size Ficus benjamina that I fused a cutting on top of the original tree because the top of the tree, a lot of it died off, so I kind of rebuilt the tree, and that's why it's called FrankenFicus. So today I'm going to take it even a step further, and I'll show you why. Here is a look at the tree. So I'm very happy with the trunk and the roots, the way they cascade down the trunk. So the problem area is this is where the original cutting was planted over top of the tree. So all the aerial roots start from this one point on the trunk, and above that there's no aerial roots, and there's a bit of a transition area there. So what I was thinking is that there's a big cut on the top here. I'm going to try and get the camera in there to show you that. Right in here. I got to get it focused too. Yeah. Right in here. So you can see there's kind of a big cut there. Sort of a flat spot. So what I was thinking is I need a cutting up there with aerial roots coming down the trunk. So I have aerial roots coming from up here down, and then the aerial roots get stronger from this point, so there'll be a mix of finer ones coming from the top, and that will allow me to kind of create a better trunk line with more interest up top. The other option was to grow the canopy out so it kind of covers up the top section of the tree, so all you see is kind of the aerial root section, but I think I'm going to try and correct it with another cutting. It'll also allow me to place roots. You can see on the original trunk in here, there's a section of the original trunk where there's kind of a hole here, and there's no kind of root cascading down there. It looks a bit awkward, and maybe over here too. So it would allow me to place some aerial roots where I want them, and kind of, well, even improve the trunk on it even more. So yeah, there'll be it'd be quite a benefit, I think, to the tree. Now the downside is that if I do this, it's going to take quite a few years before the new roots from this cutting. I have a cutting over here. There's the cutting. Yeah, for the roots from this cutting to grow down and reach the soil level. And I thought about, well, what if I put the cutting in a big tall pot? I have a pot that's as tall as the trunk line. Grow the roots, and then I could arrange the roots and kind of put them in the soil right away. The only downside to that is that the roots from the cutting, when it's a fresh cutting, you kind of get a flat spot underneath the trunk of the cutting. So the roots kind of grow around that flat spot, and it allows you to plant the cutting quite flush with, that cut up there. So the roots would really grip it, so you wouldn't see any spaces and it wouldn't look quite so awkward. So yeah, there's two approaches you could go. And I'm thinking because the cutting is up in the canopy here, that it wouldn't really matter too much. I could spread the roots out, and I think it would be a benefit if I could see the roots and then position them around the trunk where I want them, rather than if the roots are only, short, I would rely on them growing down the trunk, and they may grow anywhere, rather than me being able to select, the area that they grow down in by kind of arranging the roots. So I think for this, I am going to grow the roots longer, and then I can position them on the trunk. So I think this will be a project that I'm going to start now with this little cutting. I'll put it in a tall cascade pot. I will grow the cutting over the winter, and then when it starts warming up in early summer, I'll position the cutting on the top of the tree, and hopefully by then the roots will be long enough. They'll reach the soil line, And I may have to, put a little bit of soil at the base of the tree to make sure the root tips are in the soil. And then kind of slowly toughen the roots up over the summer. And that should complete the final phase of the FrankenFicus, fusion ficus construction, or building up the tree. And I think it'll really improve the tree having more roots coming up higher in the tree. And you can get aerial roots that naturally form on these Ficus benjamina, but it's very difficult. You need sunlight on the tree, and you need it to be really humid. So you need the tree growing really strongly, really high humidity, and you'll get aerial roots. If you keep it pruned up and that, your chances of aerial roots are much, much less. You need to let the tree grow wild, and yeah, so it's at the point where the soil dries out too much here. The tree's searching for moisture, so it starts dropping aerial roots. So that's the plan. So today, I'm going to do two things. I am going to plant this cutting in a taller pot, kind of having a look at the roots, and I'm going to prune the tree up. So this is the height of the tree. It's on a turntable, but so it would be a little lower under the light. But in the winter, because it's so close to the light, the top leaves, they kind of get burned. It's just too close to the light. There's a lot of heat up here, a lot of light intensity. So I'm going to prune it up. I have a lot of branches that are getting quite straight. A lot of branches that are kind of new ones that are growing in strange directions. So I can prune the tree up and plant that cutting, getting it ready for next year. Whenever you're growing a ficus, it's always a good idea to propagate cuttings off the tree, because not only can you plant them and drop the roots down to create kind of a fusion ficus, but you can also do root grafting. So you can plant a little seedling down at the base of the tree if you need a root in a certain area, grow it out, and then once it's fused with the tree, you can cut off the top of the cutting so there's only the roots, the fused roots remaining, so you can create a root where there was no root. So yeah, it's always a good idea to try and propagate some cuttings of your original tree and keep them on hand in case you need to do some kind of fusion operation. It has been about a month and a half since I last pruned this tree. I thinned it out, brought the height down, and I've been leaving it so the sun is on this side, because this side of the canopy needs to be filled out more than this side. So I've been favoring this side of the tree, and it's been putting on some really strong growth. It's really filled in, but there's a lot of branches that are just getting too tall and straight now, so it needs to be brought back in height, get it away from the grow light too. And I thought, well, should I use the blue scissors and just shear it to a profile and then go in and look at the branch structure? Or should I look at each branch individually and prune it up? I think there's enough density in the canopy that I could just kind of shear it to the shape. That would get rid of, 60% of the work. Well, maybe 50% of the work. Let me see. It's always tough shearing it because it's such a brutal operation. It just cuts through everything. But sometimes that's good. It's always, if you're pruning it by hand, it's always tempting to kind of be conservative, always, leaving leaves on the branch and pruning back to an ideal place. And sometimes you're too conservative. You don't really get the major work done, and shearing does that. It's very, what's the word? It's it just does the job, whether it's good or bad, and usually the tree recovers quite fine. It's even if you cut into some branches where you're not leaving any leaves or very few leaves on, it tends to sprout out just fine and fill in again, because it's at the top of the tree and you can pretty well do anything. They're quite vigorous when they're healthy. So I'm thinking I'm thinking of using the blue scissors to start off with and then go in to look and see what's left then and do all the branch selection. Okay, I've got a good close-up. I've got my blue scissors. They're just, you know, long blades so you can shear it to a nice profile. If you use tiny scissors, it's harder to get a kind of smooth curve to the canopy. And my intent is to grow kind of a big wide umbrella canopy on this eventually. So I can already see I'm going to be cutting into a leader here on this one branch, and I'm not going to be leaving any foliage much on it. And like I said, it's really hard to do. Well, let's start conservative. Let's just start, you know, doing the edges. So here I go. Kind of rounding it all out. Already that looks better. Oh, I'm starting to get into the woody stuff now. Yeah, it already looks much, much better and in proportion. So I've got to step back and see how low I want to go with the curve of the canopy. So there is a look at the tree. So I'm going to place my hand over, try to, and just see where I want to go with the canopy, how high I want it. I think about there. I don't think I need to take too much off. Somewhere there. So maybe, you know, a bit more. Okay, well, I will do that. So here I go. I'm going to turn it so I'm seeing the front of the tree. Okay, I'm getting into some thicker branches. It's starting to look a little more strange because I'm losing, I don't know, it just looks a little strange. Here's the front now. So I'll just kind of shear it from all directions into an umbrella canopy. Keeping it all nicely rounded. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Yeah, I think it was just a little flat over this side. Okay, let me have a look at this. I think I could round it a little more. So I'm going to do that. I think it was a little flat looking. Is that better? I think I could take it back a little further on this side, a little more round. Okay, how's that looking now? Well, you know, you can still see I need to build up this side of the tree. If I cover that up, you can kind of imagine the canopy extending out there. So it'll fill in someday. Do I need to round it a bit more here? Maybe just a bit more off here, I think. More like that. Still looks a bit long here, doesn't it? could try dropping it a little more. I'm getting into some pretty woody branches in the apex, but they're probably getting too thick anyway. So I'm going to drop it a little more in height. I think it's a little high still. Oh, come here. Didn't like cutting through there. You always have to remember when you're pruning that you prune it to this, and then when the new shoots start growing in, they fill it out again. So you need to kind of prune back further than your finished desired profile. Now, it's looking pretty good now. Let me have another look at it from the distance. Yeah, I think that's a better height, dropping it back just a little bit. Okay, I think that's finished the profile pruning. So now I'll go in and start looking for branches that are growing the wrong direction, vertical branches, branches growing back in towards the center of the tree. You know, making sure every branch divides from 1 to 2, all the kind of technical things that make a good branch. So I'll start doing that now. Here is a look at the top of the tree now, after that brutal shearing operation. So you can see there's some branches at the top that have very few leaves on them. That one doesn't, maybe it's got one. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. Usually all goes well. You know, it sprouts out with new branching and that. I don't think there'll be any problem. It still has a nice green covering on top. So yeah, that's a look after the shearing operation. Here is a look at the tree now. So there's 2 lower branches down here that are almost opposite each other. This one's higher. There is some staggering. And this one, my intent is to keep it as a low branch kind of underneath the canopy. The canopy is going to extend out on this side. And this one grows up into the canopy and forms part of the canopy. And that will create some asymmetry in the tree, which I think will make it quite interesting. So I can prune some of this more vertical growth off of this branch. I want to grow this or some of these lower ones as my branch leader. I don't want to grow it up high like this. I left this on just to make sure this branch stays strong. But I can prune some of that back, and that's where I'll start with. So I'm going to take off this one coming out the front, or take it back quite a bit to there. This one I'm going to take off completely like that, and I think the rest are okay for now. And then, you know, eventually I'll take that whole branch off once this and this back one kind of strengthen up more. I could take the tip off this one. It's growing well. I've pruned the small branch on the right hand side, so now I'll prune this one up on the left hand side. So there's a vertical branch growing here that's kind of shooting straight up. I'll take it back and see how that looks to a more outward flowing branch. Looks a little better. This one's kind of coming straight out the front. I could redirect it to a leaf that's on this side, on the left hand side. So I'll take the tip off here. Like that. There's a vertical part here I don't need. I'll take that off. This one's getting a little high. I want to grow this up into the canopy, but you don't want straight branches, so you've got to let it grow, prune it back, let it grow a little more, prune it back, and slowly you make progress with interesting branches that have taper and movement to them. There's part of this kind of vertical leader here that's growing straight over top of another branch. I'm going to take that branch right out. It's shading out the one side there. Take a stub off. There's another stub here I can remove. This one, it's kind of starting to shoot straight up. I've got two leaves that fan outwards towards the front here. I'll prune it back like that. This one could be redirected a bit to a leaf fanning out here. And this one I can take the vertical part off, leave my two branches fanning out. And there's a vertical one, a new shoot growing on the top of the branch here I can remove. Like that. There's a vertical part to this branch I'm going to take right off. Like that. And there's one growing to the inside here I can remove. Just cleaning it up. There's a new branch here, a new shoot I'm going to take off there. There's a new one in here I'm going to remove. It's just starting to clutter the structure up. Now, on this branch, you can see I have, this branch is almost coming back in towards the center of the tree, or it's very straight and vertical out the front. I did prune it back, but I don't think the location, the origin of that branch is good, so I'm going to remove it. Like that. There's a branch here, kind of vertical. I'll take that off. Sending it out. And I'll take... No, that's good. That one's good. There's a stub here I can take off. Another stub here. Okay. There's a fly in here. I don't know where the fly came from. Maybe when I had the door open. This branch, is it usable? I guess it is. I'll redirect it. I've got a branch forming here, so I'll take it back to there. And the one that's crossing towards the inside. I may even be able to use that if I prune to a leaf on this side. So I'll do that. See what happens. Can always come off in the future if I want. Okay, I think that's got that branch pruned up. There'll be more pruning coming on it in the future, but I wonder, just looking at it, there's a branch, kind of thin one here growing straight over top of this one. I should probably take that out. I think I will. Okay. There is a branch forming here. I could lower this a bit if I wanted. I better. Just get a bit straight looking there. Maybe even this one. Take it back to this leaf. I could even take the tip off here. I'm just stepping back looking at that branch again. I don't think I need this vertical one here because this will grow out into that area, so I don't need that one. I am going to remove it. So I'm looking at all these branches. So on this one, I have, it kind of goes straight up the front, and I have one fanning out at the front. So I could take this vertical part of it away. Let me show you that. Here is a look at that branch. So you can see this one fans out to the front, and then I have this one goes vertical. I hope you can see that right here. So I'm going to take that off, the vertical part. This one, it's starting to go quite vertical too, and I have a branch forming here, so I'll take the vertical tip off, keeping everything fanning outwards. There's an old leaf here I can take off. So the shearing, you know, that blue scissor operation is just the start of the pruning. You can always go lower because the tree will always grow out. So you should always be on the lookout for new shoots that grow a better direction. I think this one there's a leaf coming out the front. I'm going to take the tip off. You can see a lot of these branches, they start from the base and they kind of just curve up. So over the years, you know, you can prune them back, get more movement and taper to them. It's something that develops with age on the tree. There's one growing straight up here I'll remove. There's a stub I can remove here. There's a vertical one here I can remove. Old leaf here. Old leaf here. And an old leaf here. And one here. That gets more light down to the lower branches, thins it out, so you could get more back budding. If the branch gets light, it has a higher chance of back budding. There's a new branch growing from the base down here of another branch. It's growing straight across everything in the wrong direction, so that's coming out. It was just a little new shoot like that. Yeah, so it's just basically a matter of going in and looking at every branch and pruning it up. You know, picking your best branches to keep, pruning away, like I said, anything growing vertical or crossing other branches, just kind of sorting the basic structure out. And yeah, over the years it builds up a really nice canopy on the tree. Now this is the back, and I have a branch here that's starting to interfere with here, with these ones coming off the main canopy. So these lower branches should be extending out here, and this space, I'm going to remove this vertical one, will be filled in by these branches. So I'm going to take this vertical part off there. So that gives these branches room to grow out in that space. There's a branch growing very horizontally from the canopy, and in the center of the canopy here you want everything reaching upwards, and then as you go down to the lower branches they go from vertical, they start fanning out more and more till they're kind of flatter branches down below. So this one's too horizontal, it doesn't flow upwards, so I'm taking it out. So you see I'm kind of getting like a cluster here, my kind of apex, and then branches kind of surrounding it at the next level, and then there's another level where they're more horizontal, and it's kind of building up a branch structure with some separation. And that's something that'll improve into the future. The branches will get more and more, will become better and better. There's a vertical one here I can take off. Okay, let me step back and have a look at the tree. I think I've done a lot of the work in the upper canopy at least. There's a look at the tree, and I can definitely notice that all the branch structure, you can kind of see the flow of it, that it's all fanning outwards. Before it looked quite congested, and now I can see it's a little clearer, the branch structure. Yeah, it's definitely cleaned it up. So I think the only thing I need to do is clean up some of those back branches now. They're getting, some of them are a little out of check. There's a vertical shoot here on this back branch I can take out totally. There's a vertical growing tip here I can prune back. Okay, I think that's it for the pruning of the tree. And I'll show you that spot where I'm going to plant the cutting. So we will fly in here, and right in there you can see where the cutting's going to go, right in that big flat spot in there. And the cutting, it's like a branch reaching outwards, so I can place it so it kind of fans outwards. And I think it'll look quite good. I can always add more cuttings to the tree if I want in the future. Kind of, you know, keep improving it, keep dropping aerial roots. Because eventually, these aerial roots will thicken up, fuse with each other, and eventually this trunk will become quite smooth, you know, far into the future. So you may, you know, always want to be planting cuttings, dropping new aerial roots, so you keep some of these roots quite fine looking. It makes the tree look more miniature. Once they start thickening up and getting really big, the tree loses that miniature appearance because the roots just get too big and they start fusing. Yeah. So let's take one final look at the tree, and I'll put it back out in the greenhouse, and then we'll plant up this cutting. Here is a look at the tree now from the distance, so I'll rotate it around. So here's the front, coming around to the right-hand side, to the back, to the left-hand side, and back to the front. Here is a look at the pot. I was thinking of planting the cutting in, so I put a drainage screen and filled it partway with soil. And I think it's not a bad height. I think it'll do. It's a really nice Japanese pot. It has a chop on the bottom and everything. Kind of seems a shame growing a cutting in it, but it'll work and it won't take up a whole lot of space in the plant room here for the winter, so I think it'll be ideal. So I'm going to get the cutting out and bare root it. I'm going to do that outside. Oh, the sun's come out now. Is that ever nice? Yeah, I'll do that. I'm going to plant it outside. I don't think I'll show it on camera, but I might. And at the base of the cutting, wherever it is, I might put something underneath it so the roots, instead of kind of going straight down and fusing together, I might put like a round piece of wood or something so they kind of grow out and around it. Trying to match kind of the spot in here that I'll be planting it, deep in there. So the roots will kind of grow out and reach around that big scar there. So that's what I'll try and do. I better film it. I'll do it outside. Okay, I'm set up outside here. So the first thing is to get this cutting out of the pot. So here I go. Just like that. Now, I'm going to bare root it because I do want to put that, either a stone or something underneath the root base. And I also want to see what the roots look like. If I can comb them down kind of more vertically, I will. Yeah, it's quite dry, this cutting. That's probably because I didn't get a chance to water it much over the weekend because I was at the Toronto show. Okay, so it's quite a thick cutting at the base here. Wow, it's really thick, which is good because that means the roots will reach out around that big stumpy part of this tree. There's my drainage screen. Yeah, this is going to work out very well. So the roots are a little one-sided. They're growing more from this side. There's not much on this side, but there is some fine roots. So I will do a little root pruning. Will I? No, I won't. I'm just going to leave it. They're pretty good. I was thinking of doing some root pruning to try and encourage roots on this side, but I think they'll grow anyway. I think once the tree starts gaining vigor with the cutting. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. And I think there's a big enough of a woody part on the bottom here. Let me show you that. Oh, I can't see it. But yeah, there's a big woody part here that'll sit nicely on the tree. So I think it's just a matter of potting it up. I don't think I need to put anything underneath because it's woody under there. There's no roots that'll grow from that point. So I've got the tree kind of central in the pot. All the roots are hanging down vertically. So I can start adding soil now. Actually, I'll build up a bit of a mound on this side. Pine needle in there. Yeah, I want to plant it quite high to get the maximum length of roots I can out of this little cutting. So I just want to comb all the roots so they're sorted out radially, so there's no crossing roots. That looks good. And make sure any roots on this side are going down into the soil. That's pretty good there. So I'll start filling it in. I'll get some more soil. So hopefully by, I think because it didn't have a lot of strong roots on this cutting, I think I'll probably have to wait more to midsummer before I try putting it on the tree, or maybe even longer. It might be a multi-year progress or multi-year project of little progress each year. But I think it'll get there. That's the goal, is to get nice long roots growing down to the bottom of the pot. And usually they do. When they're in a tall pot like this, ficus roots really grow. They like to grow vertical. Okay. So I'm going to keep this cutting in the greenhouse. I'll give it a good thorough water. It's warm in the greenhouse. The water's warm in there. It's a lot warmer than it is outside here. It's only about, I don't know, 14 degrees Celsius, which is maybe 58 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm guessing, somewhere around there. Like, it's not too bad out here, but you kind of need, it's not t-shirt weather, that's what I'm saying. Okay, so that'll go in the greenhouse now, and I'll water it thoroughly and just grow it. I've got the cutting watered really thoroughly. The water was pouring out the drainage holes. So that'll stay in the greenhouse until I can't keep it warm enough at night time, which is usually, even if it drops down to just above freezing, I can keep the greenhouse at night at 15 degrees Celsius, which is still a pretty good temperature. But once we start getting below freezing at night, that's kind of it. I bring all the trees in. Also, you know, at nighttime, if it's below freezing and the power goes off or something, I'd be in big trouble. You'd basically lose all your tropical trees. So, yeah, when it goes below freezing, I generally move everything inside the plant room because I just can't have the risk of losing everything. And, you know, that's always a possibility in the back of my mind, is that in the wintertime, if the power were to go out for a long time, you had no heat, my only option would be to move all the trees into the basement, which would stay above freezing. They wouldn't like it, but at least it stays around 10 degrees Celsius, so that's kind of my backup plan. If we lose power in a storm or something, I would have to move everything from the plant room down onto the floor of the basement. That would at least keep the trees alive. Yeah, so it's interesting, my Ficus microcarpa fancy here, it didn't grow a whole lot over the summer. We had a really hot, humid summer, and you would expect ficus just to go nuts in the summer, but it didn't. And since I've moved it into the greenhouse here, it's started growing way better. And I think it's just that I think the summer was maybe too hot. This intense sun and the heat, and the plants just stayed kind of dormant in the summer. And now that I've moved in the greenhouse, it gets a little cooler at night and it warms up. It's 21 degrees in here now with the heat on, just the one heater on. And yeah, they love it in here. It's everything's growing really well. My wisteria in the corner here, it started slowing down. You can see it kind of leafed out, and it's not growing with a ton of vigor anymore. It's kind of shutting down for the year, I think. Normally it would have all these long shoots sticking way out of the top of it, but it's slowed down a bit. I have a jade here that is beginning to flower, so that's pretty cool. There's flower buds all over it. Oh, the sun's coming out in the greenhouse here. This time of the year, the greenhouse is like the perfect temperature inside. I just love being out here, and I'm out here a lot. Yeah, misting the trees and just enjoying them. So the little gourd, or pumpkin-like gourd, was a big hit at the show. People loved it as an accent plant. It was perfect for fall. And I told people at the show, you know, this Norway maple, if you saw it without its leaves, it wouldn't be such a good looking tree. It needs a lot of development still, but I'm going to have fun developing it into the future and hopefully get a really nice maple branch structure on it. The FrankenFicus is just the first of my fusion ficus. I created the Bride of FrankenFicus this summer, so let's go check on the progress of it. So in here on the floor of the greenhouse is the Bride of FrankenFicus down here, and it's growing really, really well. So this side is the cutting, yes. And you can see all the new growth all over it. It's looking really good. And the other side is the original tree. And I was thinking, you know, I'm growing it. I surrounded the trunk of this tree and the cutting with this kind of double pot, a really high black plastic pot. And I'm thinking, I'm wondering if the original trunk is going to get all kinds of aerial roots coming out of it and growing down into the soil too. I might get kind of a double benefit, not only the new cutting to fuse to the original trunk, but maybe being covered like this, I'll get all kinds of new aerial roots also. So I'll be very excited to uncover this, and I'm not sure when I'll be able to do it. I could do it in stages, you know, this summer, take off some of the plastic pot, cut it back so I expose some of the roots, and do it in stages over maybe a year or two. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I guess once I start maybe seeing roots growing out of the bottom here, I'll know that, you know, the roots have reached down to the soil level. A few of the older leaves have gone yellow and they're falling off, but it's growing really strongly, which is good to see. Well, my new cutting there is in the sun now, so that will become a future branch on the FrankenFicus. Very exciting. That'll be great. Arranging those roots around the tree someday. I think it'll really improve the quality of the ficus. I sure had fun at this weekend's Toronto Bonsai Society show and sale. Thank you all the volunteers and the people who came out to the show and viewed all the trees. It's really appreciated. It's nice to have people wandering around the show for the entire 2 days. It was a very busy show. And I didn't video the vendor area. There was a big room with all trees and tools and pots, and oh, I saw some beautiful pots there. Some big oval landscape pots that I would have loved to buy them, but they were a little out of my price range, but they're gorgeous. Yeah, I saw Richard there from Go Bonsai. So hi, Richard. It was nice seeing him again. Yeah, it was a very nice show. I really enjoyed it. It was set up and organized so well. So thanks, everyone. So my FrankenFicus, it's on track for the second fusion stage. it's going to be exciting doing that, and I think it's really going to improve the look of the trunk of the tree, having more aerial roots up higher and a mix of these thicker roots and the finer ones. I think it's really going to take the tree to another level, I hope. So that is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.